So Zerlina Maxwell is out at MSNBC. Why do things like this happen, you ask? Is it because of racism? Is it because they hate women? Not at all. Matter of fact, these are the things that outlets like MSNBC claim to be on the forefront of. Right? Zerlina Maxwell and pundits like her, man, they have lost a ton of credibility. They have lost a ton of credibility because they have acted in bad faith, especially with them in these past 2 years. And she was installed, 2 years? She didn't even last 2 years on this network. I mean, if that. I mean, she didn't last past 2 years. Because it was all about maintaining the status quo, maintaining, sticking to whatever her side is and being completely biased. And not just biased. It's one thing to report things that are accurate, that may have a biased slant. I mean, hell, like I said, people on the right do that stuff. You report things, you got a biased slant because you're only reporting the negatives that the other side does, and you tend to ignore things that your side does. But these guys, you see what's happening over at CNN. They're completely cleaning house because their reputation has been destroyed beyond repair. And now you see, and I mean, I'm surprised, MSNBC is still getting a lot of the ratings that they get. But I think their time is coming also. And hopefully we can get to the point. Like I've always said, man, Fox News is no better. No. They're a little bit better. They're a little bit better than the others, man. And even though they have a political agenda that they want to push themselves, at times they're even better. That's why they're getting the ratings that they have. Because people, whether it's a jaded opinion, or, they're following them for the wrong reasons or whatnot, they've gained the trust of many people in the public. It's not just, we want to lump everybody into being Trump supporters or white supremacists and having white privilege and stuff like that. And that's what the other side has tended to do. They've missed what's going on. They've diagnosed it wrong every single time, and they just throw everybody in one whole mixed bag, generalize everybody without understanding the nuance and the different gripes that people have. Right? Like I said, it may be misguided on why they choose what they choose. But there's more reason, and it's a lot more variety and nuance than what gets reported. It's things like what Zerlina did last month. Just last month, when she claimed that it's a privilege to care about gas prices and inflation.
So if you think about what you just explained in terms of how it's a liability, how playing, in the culture war space on issues like LGBTQ plus rights or even abortion, how that could be a liability for Republicans. But one of the pieces of conventional wisdom I read a lot about is that inflation and the cost of things is a liability for Democrats. I mean, how do you think that balances out? Do you think that bodily autonomy in the minds of a voter who's going into that polling booth, do you think that's more top of mind than the cost of their gas?
I think ultimately that in order to even have to care about inflation, you have to be alive. And if you're a woman right now who has a difficult pregnancy that's threatening your health, you know what? That's going to matter a lot more to you, I think, than inflation.
One of the things that you said there that I really think is important is the fact that, inflation, it's almost a privilege to care about inflation as your number one issue. The same is true of gas prices, or even the idea that it's the economy, stupid. I always found that analysis lacking because as a black person, I don't want to get killed on the way to my job. So I'm glad I have a job. I'm glad I make a living wage. But if I can't be alive, then what does that other stuff matter? I mean, speak to the idea that some of this stuff is existential in the minds of the Democratic base in a way that it's maybe not for the middle of the country, the so-called middle, or even more conservative-leaning voters.
As if issues like that don't affect the black community at all. In fact, given the median and average income numbers and the economic numbers of where we sit, those are the main things that impact us. And that's been proven, and that's what I've been stating all of this time. And how the money system is a scam and how it keeps people who were put at the bottom. It tends to keep that group. Now you're going to have people that can rise above. We can all individually find ways to rise above, but as a whole, and there's only so much money circulating. As a whole, it's going to keep that group at the bottom. Because no matter how much money gets injected, you can inject more money into the economy, the price is going to raise on everything. Inflation's going to be induced. Those bankers need their money back. None of this money that circulates is free, okay? They're going to need their money back. It's how we already knew what was going to happen during the pandemic. We knew this was coming. But, they call everybody conspiracy theorists and whatnot. Like I said, because y'all ignorant. But saying that black people are more worried about being shot by the police and trying to make it to work than worrying about prices and stuff like that. How do you think this shit even happens? First of all, nobody's just getting shot by the police just for driving or just for being black. I mean, it can happen, just like it can happen either way. Anybody can have some type of disdain for a race or anything for whatever reason and decide that they just want to do something to the person. But for the most part, that's not what happens. A lot of it because it's the law. A lot of times we criminalize things, just like criminalizing marijuana and stuff like that. So it gives way for law enforcement to legally do what's put in the books for them to do. But not only that, it's y'all same people who are claiming that black people are getting done wrong and wanting to fund law enforcement and everything like that. You keep giving them power when you do things just like in the pandemic. What type of advantage did white people get in the pandemic when they were sitting up there getting their businesses shut down, bank accounts closed, shut out, like the guy in New Jersey, the Tillis Gym? The lady down here that had the hair salon, and it wasn't just them, it was black folks too. All type of people getting their businesses shut down against their own rights. Against their own rights. And you think, oh, that's not a police problem? What happens when they don't want to comply? Because you always say, well, why do they have to comply? They don't have to comply. They don't have to comply. And they're not wrong for not complying, especially when it's on the books. And it's on the Constitution, which means it's a law of the land, which supersedes everything, state law, all of that. Now you've criminalized these people for not following what's been said. You want to criminalize people for wanting to be able to protect themselves. Right? You want to talk about, schools, she said in the same clip, talking about their kids can't even feel safe. This is all partisan propaganda. Kids can't even feel safe in schools. Nobody's holding a gun. Like, there may be coercion or whatnot through the economy, but nobody's holding a gun and making your kid go to these schools. You go, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. Your child is your responsibility, and where he goes, and there's safety. And if you don't have that shit in order, do not create children. Not to say that this stuff is horrible what happens at these schools. And the government you can't let those gunmen off the hook or anything. That goes without statement. But then you have teachers who feel like they don't have a responsibility to protect your children. Oh, why do I have to produce a gun and this or that? And why do I have to create that environment? Because there's lunatics out here. You want to talk, and then you bring up an issue with everything. It shouldn't have to be all these lockdowns and stuff like that. So then what is it? Because guns are going to be out here, and you're not going to be able to stop it. And it's just a right of people. But you're bringing up this bullshit out here. Nobody's holding your gun to your kid or to your head and making your kid go to these places. You make these decisions. You make the choice to put your kid in a public school. You make that choice. If there's changes that need to be made to where, school of choice and stuff like that, that needs to be stated. That's been stated. But a lot of times, like I said, got Democrats and everything. They want to fucking make that an issue. They want to make that an issue. There's all type of solutions, all type of stuff out here. But like I said, school, that's more than what this is. People like Zerlina Maxwell operate in bad faith, and anybody with half a brain knows that the points that she makes are absolute nonsense. They're bullshit. And that's what kills the credibility every single time. It's not race, it's not her sexuality or not her gender, not her sexuality or anything like that. Same for these guys like Don Lemon and all of these guys. 9 times out of 10, and then you look at guys, Tucker Carlson and all of those guys, they have an agenda, but then they're telling whatever their bias is, they're still framing what's happening on the other side a lot of times in the proper manner. Why don't y'all get that concept? But it's like that for a reason. It's like that for a reason. This creates the split. The split that I talked about a couple videos ago in the division. It's all psyop. All psyop. Make you go to one side or the other. And it's all going to end up sending you down the same river at the end of the day. All in the hands of those banksters. Y'all don't want to deal with the root of the problem. But things like inflation and prices, understanding where those come from, those are some of the roots of stuff. You want to talk about people dealing with police, there'll be less of that when people can pay their bills and they don't have to, resort to criminal stuff to where they end up getting shot by police. When they have affordable, not just affordable wages, but everything's just affordable out here. The living and everything, and healthcare, food. We see the stuff just skyrocketing, and it's just taking more money out of the home savings. And you think black people don't care about that? What world do you live in? And that's why you are off TV right now. Because you're not getting the ratings because people know that you're bullshit. And there's going to be more to come. Going to be more to come. But hopefully people wake all the way up and turn that television off completely. Shut all of these characters off. They're no good for you. No good for you. Destroying your minds. It's worse than the stuff. Guys are like children. the way y'all consume this stuff and then go regurgitate this crap out to the public. It's like children. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. I'm out.